We welcome you back to CBS Mornings. You're looking at the White House as a new book reveals fresh details about what has happened there since President Trump returned to power. The name of the book, it's called Regime Change, Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. We make it very easy for you to buy this book. It's flying off the shelves. Now it's your turn. Scan the QR code on your screen. You can buy it right now. The book includes revelations we've never heard before from conversations with the president himself and other key officials at every level in his administration. It's based on more than 1,000 interviews over a long period of time. New York Times journalists Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan are the authors, and we're happy to say that they are here live and in color in the studio. So glad to have you guys here. You know, most of us, if you follow the news the way we do, we knew a lot of the stories, but we didn't know a lot of the details. And there's a couple of lines, well, many lines stood out to me, but I just have to start with this. His complete absence of shame, historically unusual among American presidents, has become a political superpower. In his second term, President Trump has bent and even broken institutions. It makes me think about the title regime change, because for most people, when you think regime change, you think other countries. Here, you're talking about regime change in our own country. And I think we should start with the difference between Trump presidency #1 and Trump administration #2.
Sure. So this administration, again, thank you for having us. This administration is so unrecognizable to Trump's first one. And it became really clear to us as we were conceiving of this book, reporting for it. This was months, years of reporting. We had to leave so much on the cutting room floor that we were covering not the transfer of power from a Democrat to a Republican or a Democrat to a Democrat. This is a fundamentally different conception of the U.S. presidency. It is changing how countries around the world, leaders around the world, how people in the U.S. look at their president. And we're not used to covering regime change, as you say, here. But that is what we were doing. And in fact, this title was conceived of prior to the Maduro operation in Venezuela.
It was, before.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah, and it's really about the way he's using executive power. We haven't seen anything like this in our lifetime in terms of the unilateral expression of executive power at a time where, you know, it's pretty hard to think of a precedent for a US president having the command that Trump has had over his own party in Congress that he had in 2025. There really isn't a precedent. I mean, he basically got them to do whatever he wanted, and Congress wasn't even consulted when he went to war with Iran. I mean, remember when George W. Bush took America to war in Iraq and Afghanistan? Look, as flawed as the decision-making process was, there was a process where it got approved by Congress, the branch of government that under the Constitution...
Congress wasn't consulted about Maduro either.
He didn't even talk to... So again, Trump is just acting. He's acting, and the system is trying to catch up to him. That's really the way it's working.
Well, So with that in mind, the fact that the president is pushing against norms that have been tradition and law in this country since its founding, what struck me is how he built his cabinet, the people that are around him, that are advising him. Maggie, on page 13, you write about Trump's decision to tap John Ratcliffe as CIA director. That section says, "This guy looks like Cary Grant," Trump added. "He's straight out of Central Casting. If you're going to cast a guy to play CIA director, that's who you'd pick." There seemed to be only two qualifications at that moment, either how you looked or if you were loyal to Trump. Not, are you able to protect the American people? Are you able to grow the economy or further our national interests?
Or qualifications.
Or if I push against the norms or the law, you're there to stop me or act as somebody who, not to stop, you don't want to stop the president, but you're there to advise me against it.
Yeah, I mean, loyalty was a premier characteristic that he was seeking. And loyalty, and we write about this, has a bit of a fungible definition. But what became, for him anyway, what became the real litmus test was January 6th, where you were on January 6th and where you were on January 7th. If on January 7th, in Trump's mind, in any way, you were separated from him, he did not want you around. And we described several anecdotes that lead to that, including one about Robert O'Brien, who had been incredibly loyal to him as his final national security advisor in term one. He had some memory of O'Brien being not fully on board with him. It was all that he had done was praise Mike Pence on January 6th. And Trump sees his face, and we take you inside the tea room at Mar-a-Lago for these meetings during the transition. And Trump just has like a visceral reaction and says, get him off on the screen. He doesn't want him there. You know, he was shaking in his boots on January 7th. The central casting aspect is a big one. Part of that is Pete Hegseth, how you now have him as the Secretary of Defense /War. He liked that Hegseth was good on TV. He liked that Hegseth defended quote-unquote warriors. When it came to someone like Tulsi Gabbard, who was the Director of National Intelligence, it was, let's give it to her. What harm could she really do?
One of the things, Jonathan, that this book does extraordinarily well is put us, the reader, in the room. And there's that meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the Situation Room with President Trump looking at this presentation that he is giving them with a very small group of people. Yeah. And the assessment that you write in the book afterwards, and I think it was raising General Kane or Ratcliffe, that this was a farcical view of what would happen in the actual war if it happened, and it was bull. So who's playing whom here? Is it Netanyahu playing Trump or Trump playing Netanyahu?
Our reporting, there's a sort of narrative out there that Netanyahu is puppeteering Trump. Our reporting doesn't support that at all. Trump was actually the most hawkish member of his team when it came to Iran. And if you look at his history, even though he has talked about no more new wars, etc., he's always been pretty hawkish on Iran. You know, going back many years, he pulled out of the Iran deal in term one, he assassinated Soleimani. But this was a fascinating meeting with Netanyahu. I mean, he comes into the Situation Room and he gives a presentation on how the war could go. And there's a video montage of different new leaders that might take over Iran. And what you're referring to is overnight, the CIA did a very quick analysis on this presentation, and they concluded that these regime change scenarios were not going to bear out. Trump went ahead with it anyway. He had a gut instinct that this was going to be a fast war.
And almost everything that Netanyahu prophesied in that presentation did not happen when the war unfolded.
Correct.
Right.
And it is still ongoing, and they're trying to get out of it.
You also read about it's difficult for people close to him to tell him the truth. No one likes to bring him bad news. But to be fair, isn't that the case with most presidents? What makes this different? Most presidents, their people don't like to give them bad news. How is it different in the Trump administration compared to other administrations?
It's a fair question because, you know, certainly Joe Biden did not like hearing bad news, and that was a key aspect of that presidency. Donald Trump didn't like hearing bad news in term one, but he did have more inputs. Joe Biden also had other inputs. Joe Biden would watch mainstream news. He would take briefings from his government. Again, he did not like hearing things weren't going well. Trump is in an information bubble that is unlike anything that I can remember.
Information bubble.
Yeah, I mean, the inputs that are reaching him are so small. This is a government, and we really tried to show this in this book, where decisions are being made by a group of about a half a dozen people. You point to what you were asking about in terms of the war. The Energy Secretary and the Treasury Secretary, the two people would have to manage the after effects and economic impacts of a global energy crisis caused by this war were not part of these meetings initially because they were concerned about leaks.
I didn't catch the part. Who's giving you all this information? Jonathan?
Gayle wants to know your sources.
Well, that's an interesting question.
I am fascinated by someone in his inner circle is
which
talking.
would have spoken to these two reporters and the motivation behind that, specifically as it relates to one of the most vivid accounts in the book, the Epstein files, which has to do with the Epstein files, where you make clear that the president wants it all to go away. The people in the room with him say it's not going to be easy. Take us there.
Well, this was a pretty extraordinary series of meetings that happened last summer. And the setting itself was extraordinary. I mean, the White House Situation Room is the National Security Command Center of the United States government. It's where Lyndon Johnson monitored the Vietnam War. It's where Barack Obama monitored the raid, which ended in the killing of Osama bin Laden. Over the summer of last year, they essentially turned the Situation Room into an Epstein crisis response center. And you had the most senior officials in the US government gathering in that room to figure out essentially a PR strategy to deal with the Epstein crisis. One of the problems they had was they had built this website that they were going to release, a Justice Department public-facing website. And they were searching around in it for Trump, and they were finding a lot of stuff on Trump. And some of it was, you know, embarrassing. So they had to make decisions about what to disclose and what not to disclose. But that really was a political crisis that has had long-term effects, way beyond what his team expected. We got some confidential memos from his pollster, and it's still having political effects even this year.
Wow. It'll be interesting to see how this all turns out. You said history is still writing
being
the
written,
story.
and
Yeah.
you are writing that first draft of history. Maggie Haberman, Jonathan Swan, thank you very much. Book's incredible. We appreciate you coming on. Regime Change is on sale right now. Scan the QR code on your screen to get your copy.